Okay, speakers, please put your cameras on so we can introduce you to our viewers. Great. Okay, everyone. Let's just give everyone a few more seconds to join. Okay, guys, welcome to the Career Goals Masterclass brought to you by Shine Club. This is our second masterclass of the brand, and we're really excited to be delving into all things career and landing your dream job, negotiating like a pro, and yeah, some valuable career tips from some incredible ladies. So the theme, get the interview, land the job, is probably the perfect way to start off the year with some great career goals. And we are going to share the shine with some great tips and wisdom from these impressive ladies. I think I'll start. I see quite a few people joining. Okay, so I am Cleo Markopoulos, and I am your host for today's masterclass. A little bit about me: I am co-founder of Mood Creative Agency and Style Rotate, fashion, South Africa's actually biggest fashion rental platform. I have about 10 years of experience in the fashion and media industry, and I also started my career with some interesting happenings, but also, really making a great first impression. So I really know the value that a first impression carries. So hopefully today you'll be able to all nail that first impression with all the advice we'll hear. Okay, I'm going to start with a few tips on how to write a very impressive cover letter. And before I introduce the lovely ladies and they give you their tips. So for those who don't know, a cover letter is something that accompanies your CV and something you'll send with your CV to a prospective employer. So this is essentially the first kind of impression that you make with your future employer. So it's very important to get it right. And yeah, these are just 5 tips to really nail that. So I hope you can write a very impressive cover letter after this. Hello, everyone. Some people are joining now too. Okay, so the first tip I have is less is more. I always say stick to 1 page for your cover letter. Don't ramble, be concise. People don't want to sift through a long-winded cover letter. So one page for your cover letter. The second tip I have is why. It's very important to address the why. Why are you a perfect candidate for this position? Why do you want to work for this specific company? And this really allows you to be a little bit personal and to include the company name in your cover letter, include the position that you're going for. I would really love to work for Cosmopolitan Magazine as fashion director because I feel XYZ. So that's kind of to personalize your approach a little bit. The third tip is a snapshot into your CV. And by this, I mean only include the most relevant info. You don't necessarily need to include the hostessing job you had when you were 16. It's more just the really meaty, necessary bits of info. And this obviously varies depending on the industry you're in. Which brings me to my 4th point, and that is really nail the perfect mix between your experience, your education, and your skills. So, your strengths, why you'll bring value to the job, your education, and then also, your great, the best experience that you've had and education. Okay, and then the 5th one is presentation counts. And we mustn't take this for granted because I've even read in Forbes recently how prospective employers, they did a big survey and the majority said that they immediately are kind of not so keen when someone uses very kind of slapdash font like Comic Sans, for example. So make sure it's easy to read, it's neat, it's professional. And on the next slide, you'll see 2 examples of what that could look like. So here on the right, we have a more formal approach, and on the left, we have a more infographic approach. And this really, again, be very personal as to why you want that specific position at that specific company. Okay, and those are my cover tip letters. So let's dive into the agenda for today. And before I go on, those who are watching, please feel free to put all your questions in the chat. We'll be answering questions in the last 10 minutes. So put as many questions as you want. Hopefully we can get through most of them. And these lovely ladies will be answering those. Okay, so for today's masterclass, Career Goals Masterclass, brought to you by Shine Club, we are going into 10 minutes on how to boss up your LinkedIn profile for a really impressive digital resume. And for those who don't know, LinkedIn is a social media platform, and it's really crucial to getting the attention of your dream job employer, future employer. The second 10 minutes, we are going to chat about how to make a winning first impression. And as we know, first impressions are key. So hopefully we'll learn how to nail that first impression. Then we'll go into 5 minutes for 5 job interview tips for nailing your dream career, followed by 10 minutes, 7 steps to negotiate your salary and to ask for what you're worth, which is really important. As females, we really need to get negotiation skills up to scratch. And once you've got your dream job, this is when these skills will really come into play. And then the last 15 minutes we'll have for Q&A. So ask your questions in the chat. Okay, and this is our very impressive speaker lineup. So first off, we will have Iñaki Chabangu, and she is a digital business coach and a really impressive entrepreneur. So very excited to hear what she has to say. And then we have Vangai Mapo, who's an award-winning content creator. So she'll also kind of give advice through the lens of a digital creator. And we'll learn a lot from that too. Then we have Holly Meadows, who is the former editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan magazine, and comes with a wealth of info, and having interviewed probably over 200 people in the last few years, she'll also have some great tips. And then lastly, Mapalo Maku, who is a personal finance expert and is gonna give us a little negotiation expertise. So without further ado, let's start with Iñaki. So I'm gonna ask the speakers to turn off the camera except for Iñaki, and Iñaki, take it away. I think you unmute, Iñaki.
It helps if you unmute yourself. There we go. You can hear me. Okay, so hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction. And I'm really excited for today because LinkedIn is one of those tools that we kind of know in the back of our heads that is, that it's used for careers, but we're not really sure how to do it. You go on there and it's but isn't LinkedIn for old people and very corporate-y people? It was traditionally, but it's moving into a space that we can play in really well. And so these are the 7 things that your CV should have and ways that you can boss up your LinkedIn profile to match that. I'm going to click next. In the comments, you guys, so that I know I'm not talking to myself, maybe tell me or tell us what kind of work you do or what kind of work you're looking for. Okay, so the CV etiquette number, one of the things is, as Chloe was mentioning, was keep it short and keep it brief, right? So, a good way to judge it is to say 1 page for every 5 years or even 10 years that you've worked. So unless you've been working for 20 years and you've got different types of experiences, 2 pages, 3 pages, it becomes a lot for a CV. Keep it chronological, which just basically means keep your earliest employment right at the top and your least at the bottom. Spelling, grammar, formatting, you guys know about that. It's spelling, guys, spelling. Okay, so things to include in your cover letter, already touched on a little bit, but your cover letter which is important, and it must speak to the job that you are applying for. So, good advice is that if you are applying for jobs in different sectors, make sure, or different companies, make sure that you tailor your cover letter specifically talking to the areas that you can improve, like Chloe was saying, in that job. So why are you suitable for this job, as opposed to your CV, which just kind of talks to your general qualifications and general work experience. So work experience is very important to put in there. Obviously, we want to see that the work that you've done. If you don't have a lot of work experience, put details of what you do in your time to stimulate your brain. So if you volunteer somewhere, or if you help children with their maths, like that plays into your work experience, right? It's just about the kind of work that you do. Maybe you do something in the community. That's if you don't have a lot of job experience. Your education, same thing. We don't need to know that you went to primary school in, the Eastern Cape, but, as long as you have a matric and then your highest qualification in chronological order. And then if you do have extra skills, maybe courses that you've done, include that as well, especially if it's related to the job posting that you want to apply for. Professional certifications, so certain positions and certain jobs may need you to have a certain registration or a certain certificate. Make sure you keep those up to date, and even the ones that you think may not be relevant. If you've recently done a Facebook course, or you did a Canva course or something that could be relevant to the job experience, then definitely do that. Same thing with additional courses and training. Is that good? Can you guys hear me? Just give a thumbs up in the comment section if you can. Remember to ask questions, and we will answer them at the back end of the talk. So CV etiquette, things that you should probably exclude, and things that will clutter your CV and kind of take up real estate space, right? So because we know that we're working with a one page, it's important then to reduce the amount of information that you put on there. So things that you probably shouldn't include unless it's definitely been specifically requested: your home address, your date of birth, your language proficiency. Like if you speak 7 languages and it's not really relevant, unless of course you are applying for a French speaking role, then you maybe list that you speak French. So irrelevant working experience, same thing, just keep it off. It's, prime real estate. Social media handles as well, unless you're specifically applying for a role where your social media is important, then keep it off the page. It's not important. And then a photo. So this is a bit of a dance, because some people love the idea of a photo, some people hate the idea of a photo. I'm like somewhere in the middle, on condition that your photo is professional and it's relevant, right? So if you are in a design space or in a creative space, then you could put a very creative photo. But if you're in a corporate space, then maybe a headshot with the suit or something, but a small, clear professional photo. But if it's too much work, rather don't put a picture. Don't put one of you in your matric dance dress because you really loved how you looked in it. Don't do that. Another thing to not include are your hobbies. Whether you cook or you sing or you dance, it's not really relevant to the job unless obviously it is. Leave that out. We're okay with that. So how to build the CV, right? So we've learned that we must keep it to one page, do a cover letter and make it look cool. And so one of the best tools that I can recommend is to use Canva. It's free. You get all the templates there. You literally sign up and you can just search CV templates or resume templates and you'll find that. Microsoft Word and convert it into a PDF is also an option. Remember to convert it to a PDF, especially if you're going to be using elements that may shift around and move around when you send it to people, or fonts and things. So PDF and then send it. Don't ever send a Word document out. And then LinkedIn, right? So actually uploading your CV on your LinkedIn profile. So then we jump to LinkedIn and we say, all right, so I'm going to be uploading my profile on, or I'm going to be creating or updating my profile on LinkedIn. What does it look like? How do I boss up my LinkedIn so it moves away from being an old, weird, very formal space to a space where I feel comfortable using and, you know, able to engage and use it to find employment. And so a professional headshot. So, I mean, you've spoken, this is like so important, right? That you put your best foot forward. So, I mean, if anybody sees you on digital for the first time, that's going to be their first experience of you. And so put your best foot forward, put a beautiful photo. What you can also do is include a background photo. LinkedIn or Canva allows you to even search LinkedIn header or LinkedIn photo for the little banner that sits right above your picture. Same thing with your bio. So keep it short, keep it brief, but also keep it relevant. So if you are currently doing something, put it in there, because those are the words that are going to be triggering people that are looking for the kind of work or the kind of skills that you have. So also include your about you, which is a summary of what your CV would say, or your cover letter would say, your experience, obviously. And if you're able to get recommendations from your from like people that work with you or people that you work with, recommendations are an option in LinkedIn where people can say that this person is really good at this. Get people to give you recommendations. They're like reviews for LinkedIn, which is cool when other people see it, because recruiters search certain keywords on, you know, related to whatever. So they're looking for graphic designers. They'll search for graphic designers, or they'll search for Adobe, or they'll search for, you know, a tool that you may use. Okay, so this is the bonus hack that I've been waiting to share with you guys. And I wanted to put a live demo in here, but I've missed the slide. So what you're going to have to do is pay attention, like zoom in, hone in, be here. So what you do is, once you've done your CV and you've followed all the steps that we've spoken about before, you take trick. Don't tell anybody who wasn't on the Shine Club, because then they beat you to it. You take the description or the keywords that are in the jobs that you are looking for. So if you see a job that you are looking for, so it's like a social media marketing manager or something, and it's got the description, take the entire description and copy it. So Control A, or make it all blue, and then Control A, so right click copy, and paste it on your Canva document, on your Canva CV, and then make it really, 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 really small. I tested it yesterday, and you can get it up to like a 1. If you can get it to size 1, it literally disappears. A paragraph will disappear into like a minuscule size like this. You make that white, or whatever color the back of your CV is, and you basically make it disappear on the page. But what that does is make your CV discoverable. So when recruiters, once you've uploaded it back onto any digital platform like LinkedIn, so what happens is, when your recruiter is searching for words, obviously they have words that they're looking for, and they'll probably use similar words in the job descriptions. And so all of those words that they could potentially search for will just magically be attached to your CV. And so that is how you are able to like win and boss up your social game on LinkedIn. If this was good, give me a thumbs up. Remember to ask questions at the end, or we're going to answer the questions at the end. Ask the questions now in the chat, and we will have a look. Was that good? Chloe, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Nyaki. That was very insightful, and I love that CV hack. Hope you've all taken notes, ladies. Next, we are going to move on to Vangai, who is going to speak about how to make a winning first impression. Great. Vangai, just put your microphone on.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm so freaking excited to be here. and to share my knowledge and just impact my ideas. My name is Ongai Mapo, and I'm an award-winning content creator and makeup artist, as well as a businesswoman. So I've been doing content creation full-time for a couple of years now, and there is a majority of stuff that I've learned whilst being online and pitching to brands and trying to win like long-term contracts with brands. So the first thing that I'm going to start talking about is how to make the winning like first impression. Just gonna skip to the first slide and talk about the first point, which is the deciding factor for anyone that's looking to working with you, that's looking at working with you. The honest truth is that the way you look or your appearance is always the first thing that somebody is going to look at and think about when they see you. So you have to think about that like in a hard way. For example, I will give I'll share my story when I started content creating online and coming into the online space. I had to decide what my look was going to be and how I was going to set myself apart from everybody, because it can become very easy for you to just blend with everybody, and then that makes it difficult for you to have like a lasting impression. So you have to think about your look. You have to think about how you're going to present yourself to anybody that you're going to come across. The other thing that you need to think about is eloquence and speaking well. You need to make sure that whatever that's coming out of your mouth makes sense, because it makes it easier for anybody that's listening to you to follow your story. If you're not eloquent and if you don't possibly speak well, it makes it hard for anybody to actually try and listen to you or to pay attention to what you're trying to put across. Another thing that you need to think about when you are presenting yourself or making like a first impression or coming in contact with someone for the first time is like research. You need to know what you're talking about. You really need to be confident about what you're trying to put across, because trust me, if you're not confident, how are you going to convince anybody to try and buy, let's say, what you are trying to sell to them, or what you're trying to convince them to get into? Or let's say if you're a content creator, you're trying to sign a brand. How can you sign a brand if you don't know what you're actually talking about? So research, try and learn about what you want to speak of before you present it. The next thing that I am going to speak about is makeup tips. I know I'm not wearing makeup today, but I'm sure most of you that are here that know me know that I am quite versed with makeup, and I'm actually a professional makeup artist. And I want to say that in general, if you're going for like interviews, of course, job dependent, you need to think about how you are going to do your makeup. Your makeup needs to be less, because less is actually more. And I like to say less is more, and more is actually more. It can be too much. So you need to think about the colors that you're going to apply on your face that don't necessarily take away so much from your face, because you want someone to listen to you. You don't want someone to be looking at you and thinking, oh my God, her eyeshadow is so bright, or her eyelashes are like so big. You want people to look at you more especially in a modest way, so that their attention is not taken away from what's actually coming out of your mouth. And then another thing I want to talk about is when you are dressing up, you also need to think about the kind of look that you're going to present yourself with. I like to say, if you're in a corporate job, try stick to like neutral colors, your blacks, your whites, your browns, those colors that are not too loud. Like I said before with makeup, colors that are not going to divert the attention. However, if you are a creative and if you're somebody who's in arts and in a creative space, you obviously want to be flamboyant and vibrant. But then again, keeping in mind that you still want to present, still want to be presentable. And also the other thing is always dress for the occasion. Know where you're going and know whom you're going to meet. And if you're in a creative job, obviously you are going to be looking at expressive clothing that expresses whatever kind of profession that you're in. But like I said as well, if you're in a corporate job, you just want to keep yourself neutral and modest. And then if you want to take up space, it's always good to be confident and expressive without being a know-it-all. Leave space for people to ask you questions, leave space to listen to the other person. Like, what are they saying? What are they actually also trying to share with you? Stop and listen. Don't just talk and be assertive. You can actually place yourself and make a mark without being overpowering. And also mind your body language. Your body language says a lot. You want to, like I'm doing, you want to use your hands. You don't want to look like sad and not sure of what you're trying to say. And yeah, I think that is it from me. Those are my few points that I had to share. I hope you guys find it useful, and I hope you are able to use it in whatever field of expertise that you are in. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Great. Thank you so much, Vangai. These were super, super useful tips and very practical information that you can really use for your next first impression. Next up, we have former editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan magazine, Holly Meadows. She's going to be giving you her valuable information on how to really nail that interview in order to start and get your dream job.
That's on now. Can everyone hear me and see me? Just say yes in the chat if you can, just to make sure that everyone is still there. Really great to be here today, sharing some of my experience. So as Cleo said, I'm the former editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan, and in my capacity there and in my new capacity with my new company, I have interviewed so many people, maybe not 200, but definitely 50 plus, I would say. So I'm pretty well versed being on the employer's side. And I also know what it's like, because I, started out one day, and I know what it's like to feel really nervous when you're going into that first interview. So I'm here to give you some tips today. I just want to do a shout out to Shine Club Wine. If you haven't already tried it, please do go and try it. It comes in a really beautiful diamond handbag-shaped box. There's a red wine and pink variety, and it's a really great wine for entertaining your girlfriends at home. So after you've landed that interview, go and get yourself a box. Invite your girlfriends over and definitely enjoy some of it. Shine Club's hashtag is Share the Shine. So as a brand, it's all about empowering other women to be their best selves. And that transgresses all areas of life, including the work environment. I can hear someone else's microphone off. I think it's one of our speakers. Fungi, it might be yours. If you could just make sure that your audio is turned off so that we don't get that surround sound, that would be great. Thanks so much. Okay, so I'm going to head into my tips. So my first tip is to practice really strong answers. So regardless of what job you're being interviewed for, we all know that there are always that common set of interview questions. For example, tell me about yourself. Another example would be, why have you applied for this role? Or why do you think you're the right person for this role? And so these kind of questions are always asked. I always start off with tell me about yourself, because I want to give the person space to express themselves and for their personality to come across. So before you go into any interview, you should practice your answers. And I suggest practicing your answers in the mirror, because then you can kind of read your facial expressions and your body language, and you can see like what you look like when you're engaging with that prospective employer. If you have someone you live with, maybe a roommate or a friend that you could invite over, or even a family member, call them up and get them in front of you so that you can practice with them. That's also quite nice, because then you can engage with them and they can ask questions back. You just want to be as prepared as possible. My motto in life is that preparation is key, and that goes for everything, including any job interview. So practice those answers and just remember them in your head, so that when you go into an interview, you've got kind of something rehearsed that you can stick to. Number 2 is to prepare smart questions. So really, when we're thinking about questions, the most important thing, I think, is that you come across as being interested. I want to engage with people who are interesting and ask and are interested. And by interested, I mean people that ask questions. There's nothing worse than interviewing someone who doesn't ask any questions back. It's a two-way conversation. It's a two-way street. You want to seem like a really interested, engaged person. So come with your questions. You might want to ask something about the role that wasn't on the job spec advertised. You might want to ask about the work culture environment. You might want to ask, what is the growth trajectory of the role? And that kind of question shows that you are looking long term, that you're potentially a loyal person, that you're invested, and that's the type of person that I would want to employ. So research your role, research the company that you're applying to work for, and prepare a few questions that you can ask, because as I said, being engaging is really a good quality in any kind of personality. Okay, so the third tip is don't be late. I really can't stress this enough. Whoever's interviewing you is going to be a busy person. They're probably head of HR or head of their department. They've got a diary schedule that's just back to back with meetings, and they have made time in that really busy schedule for you. So it's really important that you respect that time, and that you turn up on time for your interview. So what you should do beforehand is make sure you know what the address is, tap it into your Google Maps or your Waze, and have the route plotted out. The nice thing about Google Maps is if you run out of data, or for some reason, Murphy's Law, you don't have 4G connection, Google Maps still runs in the background. So it actually downloads your route so that you can use it offline. So that's a good tip. Map it out in Google. And also, I would even go as far to say, go to your interview place the day before or the week before, so that you've already done the route, you know where to park, you're not feeling like stressed and flustered because you don't have a space to park, and where you are, and that way it's going to just like lessen your anxiety, and you're going to feel more confident going into your interview because you've done the route before. I would also say arrive early. So aim to get there like at half an hour early, but don't go up to the office. Go and have a coffee downstairs at a local coffee shop, because you don't want to put unnecessary pressure on the person interviewing you to come early. But do get there early, and then you can make your way up, I would say, like 10 to 15 minutes before the interview starts. So tip 4 is to remember good manners and body language. So an example of good manners would be, you know, to start the interview off by saying, I just want to thank you for this opportunity and thank you for the time in your busy schedule to see me and to interview me today. And then body language. So I'm a big hand talker, and sometimes I can just be too expressive and a bit too much. And I have to remind myself to you know, sometimes I'll like clasp my hands like this so that I'm not talking too much with my hands, because it can be off-putting. So I think self-awareness is really important. Thinking, and that's why I said practice in the mirror to see how you come across. If someone's really anxious, they might like tap their foot or cross their legs really often. So just, you know, before your interview, take deep breaths, try and control your body language, so that it doesn't come across as too like frantic or too anxious. And then another tip is eye contact. Eye contact is so important. You want to look the person interviewing you in the eyes when you answer their questions. At the same time, you don't want to stare them down. So it's about like creating that balance between a healthy measure of eye contact, so that you seem interested, engaged, and then, you know, looking away and glancing away. So again, that is really something that you can practice. You can practice it on your friends, or you can practice it on, you know, a member of your family. And another really good one is to smile, because you want to come across as friendly, accessible, inviting. So, you know, do smile and do look happy to be there. And also to just put your shoulders back and sit up straight. We're all guilty of slouching, but you want to be putting your best self forward, and you want to have like open body language. So sitting up with your shoulders back is another really important one. Okay, so my fifth tip is to be authentic, concise, and upbeat. So remind yourself there's a reason that you're in that chair. There's a reason that person and that company has chosen you to be there today. You know, they obviously saw something in your CV and something in your cover letter that made them reach out, and they believe that you're qualified, and that's why they're meeting you. And just remind yourself of that, and it'll give you some confidence to just relax, to be authentic, and to let your personality shine. You know, something that I've done in my career, I've really always hired on personality. You know, you might have 10 people that are qualified and have the right work experience. And out of those 10 people, the person that I'm going to hire is the person that I get on with. It's the person who has a personality that resonates with me. So really try to make sure that your personality shines through and you give that person a piece of yourself. And one way to do that would be to come into your interview with 3 bullet points. 3 points about you, your skill set, and your experience that you really want that person to know. So what I would always say is there might be a skill for a copywriter position. Give an example, back it up. So I'm a really good copywriter. An example of that is, so come with examples of, it could be a project you worked with, a previous company that you worked for, and talk to that example. And through doing that, your personality will start to shine through. You want to be more than your CV. You want to show your experience and talk to your skill set through lived examples. At the same time, you want to be concise and you want to be upbeat. So make sure you move on to the next point. Don't waffle on, don't digress too much. I've been in interviews where, you know, the person being interviewed has just got so nervous that they've started talking about something really inappropriate in their personal life that had nothing to do with the role. And, you know, I could see that was because they were nervous, but just be mindful of that. You want to keep going. That's why having those 3 points is so important. Like, keep going back to that point. Like, what is it that you want that person to know about yourself? And keep diverting back to those points. And that's a really nice anchor for you, and to also feel confident going into that interview. Okay, well, I think that's it for me. Please do ask your questions in the chat box. And as Cleo has said, we will get to answering those questions at the end of this webinar. We really want to give some time for you guys to have everything that's on your mind answered. And we've got such a fantastic panel of speakers up here today. So we're going to make sure that we make time for that. Okay, thank you, everyone. I am going to hand over to Mapello now. Mapello, would you like to? Yeah, fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Holly. Hi, everyone. I'm a personal finance columnist and published author of the book called You Are Not Broke, You Are Pre-Rich. So this book right here, it's a financial guide for millennials. So unfortunately, in life, we do not get what we hope for or what we think we deserve. We get what we negotiate, all right? Now, negotiating can feel daunting, but by not doing it, you are potentially leaving lots and lots and lots of money on the table. And on top of that, if you're a woman, the gender pay gap just demands us to constantly negotiate throughout our lives. The wonderful thing, though, about negotiating is that it is a skill. So a skill can be learned. We are not all born negotiators. So you can definitely learn the skill through reading books, through practicing, and through doing courses online or in person. All right. So it's a skill that you can learn. And I think I speak for most of the presenters here today. They have had to negotiate something in their lives, and it doesn't come naturally, but it's something that you absolutely have to do. I think more so if you are a woman. All right. So how do you go about negotiating for your salary? The first thing is you need to research how, let me move to the next slide. You need to research how much a person in your position earns. And how can you do this? Number one, through the Whisper Network. So think professional networks. This is where you can discuss challenges of the job, and potentially you can start discussing salaries, all right? And this Whisper Networks can help you leverage negotiating and your career overall. Then you need to go online. This is where Google is your friend, and look at what jobs in your industry offer. It gives you a good gauge of what is out there in the market, all right? Then decide on your target range for the raise. Never, ever, ever give a definite amount. I know interviewers love to do this. They always ask, so what is the amount that you were hoping for? Do not give 10,000, do not give 20,000, give them a range. And I'll show you how to do that at a later stage with my tips. Then the second thing, think beyond salary. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes people do. They become short-sighted and think only about what's going to come into the bank account, but there are other areas that can still add value to you outside of a salary. And some of the things to consider are working from home. Yes, I know we've been working from home for the past couple of months, but now a lot of people are going back to work. So perhaps you can negotiate to work from home 2 or 3 times a week. You could negotiate your working hours. If you're a mom, you know how difficult it is in the morning, the school run, and how difficult it is in the evening. So perhaps you could negotiate to say, I want to avoid traffic, so I want to come into the office from 9 o'clock until 3 p.m., right? Then you can also negotiate paid leave. Something that I negotiated myself when I used to work in corporate, I didn't get the salary raise that I wanted, so I negotiated on my pension fund benefits. So I asked my employer to up or increase the percentage that they were putting into my pension fund. It wasn't an immediate benefit, but in the long term, because of compounding interest, it made a massive difference towards my retirement savings. So look at all possibilities, not just your salary, all right? Then the third thing, you need to reflect on your achievements, skills, and experiences. So remember, when you're asking for a salary increase, it's all about preparation. So one of the things you need to do is prepare presentation or talking points around the things that you have achieved. I think this is the point where you kind of need to blow your own horn, right? This is the point where you will tell your manager or whoever is going to increase your salary, show them practical points of where you added value to the overall bottom line of the company, and show them how you added to perhaps a project. So have numbers, practical numbers on hand, all right? Then the fourth thing is you need to do a practice run with a trusted friend, a family member, or a mentor. I think Holly mentioned something along the lines of this when you are going for an interview. You need to let them ask you hard questions. Even though they're family or friend, you cannot be sitting there and just wasting your time, basically. So you need to let them ask you hard questions, and you need to practice the answers to those hard questions. Then at the end of that practice run, ask them for their feedback. If the feedback is positive, fantastic. If the feedback is negative, then you need to go back to the drawing board, all right? And very important, you need to cover both sides, whether positive outcome or the negative outcome. And I still do this to this day. I do this with my husband and with my poor 6-year-old. I sit them down sometimes if I'm giving a presentation, and I give the presentation as I would be the following day or in the next couple of days. So it is very important because it kind of gives you feedback, and also it helps you settle into that role, right? Then the fifth thing, what is your contingency plan should you not get a raise? I think this is where most people fall short. You practice and you think that, oh, it's going to turn out well. But in life, you need to practice both for the good outcome and the not so great outcome. So what is the contingency plan? And this contingency plan, you need to communicate it with your manager. You don't just need to have it in your mind. This is something that you need to communicate with your manager and say, okay, perhaps I did not get this raise that I was looking for. But going forward, how can I ensure that I do get a raise, right? So ask them hard questions. This is your turn now. What KPIs, what deliverables should I deliver to ensure that I will get a raise? And let them answer you and say, if you cannot answer me today, perhaps in 2 weeks' time, send me an email with all the KPIs that I need to meet, right? And make sure that they are doable, right? Then ask your manager also, because remember, your manager is also a person much like you who wants to advance in life. What if they leave a month before that meeting, right? What if they leave before you say, okay, we are going to do a review in 6 months' time, in 9 months' time, or even in 3 months' time? What if they leave before then? Who will handle giving you your raise? These are questions you need to ask, right? Then another thing, I know some of you here are new to the working force, or you are possibly looking for a job. So what do you do if it's just your first job? How do you ask for an increase, or how do you ask for what you think is the amount of money or salary that you want? All right. Again, as in point number 1, you need to do your research and find out how much your industry pays for that entry-level job. Then I have a quote from Kate Dixon. She's a negotiating coach and author. And instead of giving your potential employer a hard number, like I said earlier, not 20,000, not 30,000, not 10,000, not 5,000, and thereby possibly shooting yourself in the foot, rather give them a range. Like, so she phrases it this way. She says, you should phrase it this way instead. According to my research, jobs like this pay between perhaps 15 and 20,000, depending on the type of job in the marketplace. And I'm targeting the higher end. How close can we get to that, right? So now what you're doing, you're effectively giving, you're rolling the ball into your manager's hand, or your possible manager, and saying, give me the answer instead of you having to give the answer. But again, very important, don't just be fixated only on your take-home salary, all right? There are other costs, or there are other things that you can negotiate. And this could possibly be your moving costs. So if you are in Cape Town and the job requires you to move to Johannesburg, you could say, I want you to handle all my moving costs. I want a bonus. Can I work flexi hours? What could those be, right? So it's very important not to just be fixated on that take-home salary. And lastly, at the end of the day, it is all about advocating for yourself. Asking for a raise is about advocating for yourself. It's saying, I have put in the hard work and you can show it, right? Remember, you don't just ask for a raise, or you don't just go into the workplace thinking that I'm going to become a multimillionaire overnight. You back it up with the hard work and you show them that I have added to this company, I've added to the bottom line, I'm of value to the team. And remember, and maybe perhaps put it somewhere, that with anything, with any negotiating situation, it is about advocating for yourself. Thank you so much. And I cannot wait to see all of your questions in the chat box over there. Thank you, Holly. Thank you, Cleo.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really great. I am going to go through the questions in the chat. We've got lots of questions. So let's go with the first one, and that's for Vungai. So Vungai, this is for you. And this question is, any tips on how to keep your hair professional, especially for the corporate space, which is a really good question.
All right. Can you hear me again?
Yes.
All right. I want to say that if you're in a corporate space, the best way to keep your hair, I would say, away from your face. Preferably, if you can tie it up, that is great, because you don't want your hair to be coming onto your face and you constantly have to flip it. It's even annoying, even when you're not even in a corporate space. Let's say if you make YouTube videos like myself. If I'm constantly flipping my hair, I'm constantly trying to take it away from my eyes, it's quite distracting for anybody to sort of like pay attention to what you're trying to say. So keep your hair sleek, keep your hair clean, just keep it away from the vicinity of your face.
Great. I'm going to ask all the speakers to put the cameras on and audio off, and then we can have our panel. Okay, great. And then, okay, so don't forget, if you haven't popped your questions, do so now. The second question is, what is your view about LinkedIn Premium? I'm going to ask Iñaki to answer this.
LinkedIn Premium, I've actually had it. And I think if you are a very serious corporate person, number one, who has to make a lot of connections, definitely. Or if you are selling to a business, so if you're a B2B business, then LinkedIn Premium is perfect for you. It just gives you the tools and the capabilities to kind of see people's profiles and pages differently from if you aren't a premium. I stopped using it because it's quite expensive. I think 400 something rand a month. And if you're not generating an income from that, it doesn't make sense. But it's a great tool if you're working as a marketer and you're trying to get business from LinkedIn.
Great. Very, very insightful. I've seen quite a few questions come through about those who maybe work in a specific industry and they are wanting to change to a different industry. So here we've got a question from Juliet, and she says, how do I deviate from a technical role in engineering to a corporate role? I think I'm going to ask Mapalo this question. Can you give any insight into how you can change career path?
Yeah, I think slowly. That's the best way. So I used to work in private banking. I used to work in the financial service industry, and I started blogging. Literally, that's all I did. I started blogging because I knew that I did not want to work in corporate forever. So I started blogging about my passion, which is financial literacy. From then on, brands started contacting me to say, hey, can you write for us? So I think slowly, I think oftentimes people think they need to do this big move, this one big gesture, but slowly take your time, be patient with yourself. And so if it's to corporate, start, doing courses around the role that you're looking for. Start applying again, but it happens slowly. And also just enjoy the process of learning how things work on the other side. I think sometimes we get frustrated with ourselves when things are not happening as quickly as we want it to. So unfortunately, it happens slowly, but give yourself time, map out a plan to say, okay, what kind of certificates do I need to get? What kind of courses do I need to go for? But again, sometimes things happen slowly. But again, the wonderful thing about things happening slowly, and I think Vangai can speak to this as well, and I think Nyaki can speak to this as well. Once you're starting out, things look like they're moving slowly. For 2-3 years, nothing is happening. But all of a sudden, Vangai is doing so well. But they don't know that she started with absolutely nothing, or Nyaki started with absolutely nothing. So it compounds over time, but it's effort. So yeah, do what you need to do. Map out a plan for sure.
Brilliant. I make sure everyone's microphones off. There we go. So I have questions about how they can get this Masterclass again. I think someone's got the microphone on.
Sorry, that would be.
There we go. Also echoes. So I'm seeing quite a few questions on how you can access this Masterclass and all the valuable information in it. So within 24 hours, after 24 hours, everyone's going to get an email with a link to view this Masterclass again. So you can refer back to any information and points. So yeah, you'll have access to this. It'll be in your inbox after 24 hours. And then if you are enjoying the topic today and you found this webinar very insightful, do go to shineclubwine.coza, sign up, and you can have access to content through through career, fashion, beauty, food. There's really great content on the shineclubwine.co.za website. So do go and sign up. Okay, so I have another question for Nyaki. Can you please repeat the tip about making your CV discoverable? I saw quite a few people asking this. I think some people missed this really great tip. So Nyaki, I'm just going to give you the mic again to, go over it. That great tip. We can't hear you. Just put your mic on.
Yes. You guys can hear me now? Perfect. Okay, so the hack is you go and find a job description. So the perfect job description or job descriptions that you basically want your CV to represent. You'll find this on the career portal, on jobs.com or whatever they say is the requirements of the job. You take that entire description and you copy it over onto your Canva CV. So you've created your CV template and you copy it onto your CV template and you make the writing as small as possible. So you can even get it to a 1 and you make it white so nobody can see it. So the idea is that you put the words on there, but nobody can see them. But what happens is when you upload your CV electronically anywhere, if you put it on jobs.net or you put it on Careers24, those words will then attach themselves to the results of whatever that person is looking for. So a recruiter will then look for digital marketing and advertising. And even if you haven't physically said those words in your CV, the fact that you've copied that description, it will bring the CV up to the top of the pile. So that's just a way to make your CV shine, but obviously make it, make sure that when it gets them, then it's cool. But that's the tip.
I actually have a question for Vangai, and that is something I've been thinking about recently, and that is, how much should you put out there on social media when you are, applying for jobs? Is there a boundary? What is, best practice for social media and prospective employers? Put your mic on, please. Vangai, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Hear you now.
All right. So when it comes to the amount of you or information you're putting out online, you always have to do it honestly with a pinch of salt. Like, you want to be authentic, but also you want to think about the repercussions of things that you're actually giving out online. So I would say this is still you. You're still presenting yourself as your true, authentic self. But also remember, brands are like looking at you and watching the things that you are also saying. So I would say give it out, but don't give out as well, like too much. Keep it professional, but also keep it real, like keep it authentic, if I can say. It's hard, I don't want to lie, it's very hard, because you sometimes can never know how people are going to perceive you or receive you, or brands are going to look at you and see and think anything depending on what you're giving out. So I would just say be authentic, but also be careful, be rational about how you are just presenting yourself, because it might put off some people, it might put off a certain brands, the way you are presenting yourself online. So I would say it's a hard one. It's really hard. Even myself, even up to today, I still struggle with that. Like, what is it fine what I'm giving out? Should I stop, or should I be doing more? Yeah, etc.
Great. Yeah, it is tricky, but I think that's a really good answer. So I have a question for Nyaki, and that is, which internet platform is the best for job hunting?
Which internet platform is the best for job hunting? I can't even give you one. So Careers24 is really great. But I think, if you are serious about looking for a job, look everywhere. Because you may miss the opportunity to, for that perfect job, because that recruiter doesn't use that platform, for example. So have profiles everywhere. Just make sure that you keep your profiles updated. So, if you've got one on jobs.net or you've got one somewhere else, then make sure that it's updated. If you're going to do a change on your CV, make sure it's updated across the platform. So I think sign up to all of them, and sign up because you can get alerts for job specification, according to your job specifications, especially if you're in a very saturated market.
Something that I always sorry, put your mic off. Something that I always say is, make a list of the companies that you're really passionate about, who's kind of you believe in what they stand for, and you feel really passionately about what they do. So make a list of those companies, and don't necessarily wait to see if they're offering a job. For example, say you really want to work at Mood Creative Agency, go and see who the co-founder is, or someone who's quite high up, and try to get their contact details. This actually can be done on LinkedIn very often, and send them your cover letter and CV and say, listen, I'm really passionate about your brand and I would love to work with you. Because brands want people who are really passionate to work for them, right? So why not chase after the brands that you are passionate about? So I would say, don't even wait to see what jobs are available. Obviously, keep an eye out, apply for those, but also reach out to the brands that you'd love to work for. Okay, I've got another question.
Sorry, Cleo. Can I just add to that? That's actually how I got my first job. I had just finished varsity and I knew the type of companies I wanted to work with. So in the financial service industry, there are a couple of really like cream of the crop of companies, and I knew specifically which ones. And I made a list. I went onto their websites. Normally, they leave quite a lot of information on their websites, who to email. If not, call the reception. Literally call the reception and say, hey, who is the HR manager? And oftentimes they will give you, it's free information. Then send them an email. And don't be afraid of rejection. I find that a lot of the time people are afraid, what if they say no? So what? What if they do say no? That's just another thing. And I actually even do a challenge for myself. Even now, as I would say a content creator, I do a challenge for myself where I send out my profile and say, you know what? I want to see how many no's I get. And you become okay with getting a no. So do challenge yourself as well.
I love that because I think, that's so important. Take initiative and go after what you want. I also heard of a very kind of untraditional approach to getting a job. Someone sent a company that they wanted to work for. I think it was a box of donuts, and each donut had a different word on it. And it basically said, I would love to work for your company. And it was just a very kind of unconventional approach, and really caught the brands and the person that they wanted to work for's attention. And then I think they had attached their CV and their cover letter to that box of donuts. So, think out of the box sometimes. Okay, so I've got another question. I'm going to give this to Mapelo. Any of the ladies can also add in, but after how long should one follow up after an interview? So you've gone for your interview. When is it okay to send a follow-up email?
You know what? I can only talk from my own experience. I went for an interview. I thought it had gone brilliantly. I was sure that I had gotten the job. And 2 weeks later, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Then I think on the third week, I sent them an email. I said, hi, Jean. That was her name. Hi, Jean. I'm just following up on our interview. I just want to find out. And also act like there are other offers on the table, or you're considering one or two other things. I didn't want to look desperate. So I basically told them I'm trying to weigh my options. I really enjoyed being there. So let me know if you're interested, because I've got other things that I can do, So I think 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I think it's a good time for sure, yeah. Maybe Nyaki or Vangai have different thoughts, but that's practically what's happened to me.
I'll jump in and just say that I think before you leave the interview, especially if you think it's been a good interview, ask them about the process. So, when, if this was a successful interview, when will I be hearing from you? Just so that you can get your expectation matched up with their processes, right? So I know specifically with government, because I've only ever worked in the public sector, that it can take 6 months. So, for you to be able to say, okay, so, what are the next steps? What should I be doing in the meanwhile? That's, just ask them before you leave the interview is what I would suggest.
That's great. Yeah, for sure. I also personally don't think there's anything wrong with, after the interview, if you feel like it went well, send them an email, say, I really enjoyed meeting you. Thank you so much for your time. And just to wrap it up almost. So I think that's fine. Obviously, just read the room and see how it went. But yeah, I've got another question. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. So I'm going to answer 2 more questions. Okay, so one is from Masape, and she says, should we tell potential employers about side jobs or hustles that we have, even if it is in the industry of the job that I'm applying for? And I say definitely, but again, read the room. So for example, if you are applying for an accountant kind of position, you may not want to mention that you, love going to dance classes and you write a blog. However, if you are applying for a job at a fashion magazine, for example, and you write a blog, this could, be a great portfolio for you to show your prospective employer what your writing skills are like, what your imagery is like. So it depends on, it needs to make sense, but I think definitely if it's relating to the industry. For example, social media manager, you can definitely show them your page if it is something you're proud of and showcases your work a little bit. So just kind of read the room. It depends on the industry and the job you're going for. And then, okay, I've got another question, and I'm going to give this to Von Guy. And it's essentially, if you don't have any experience, can you still negotiate your salary? Sorry, I'm actually going to give this to Mapalo.
All right, so again, I can only really talk from practical examples. A friend of mine, she was moving from a different industry to the chocolate making industry. She had always been in IT, but now she was changing to that. And in the interview, they asked her the question, so what salary are you looking for? And she gave a hard number. And when we were talking about it, I said, you should have not done that. Yes, it's a completely new industry. So it could equate to saying it's your first job. So they called you there for a reason. I think it was Holly who mentioned this. They called you there for a reason. So they are looking at you and thinking there is potential here, right? And you've done your research. You know what the market is paying for that role, right? So yes, you should still negotiate. You should still negotiate. Normally what companies do, they will tell you that for this role, we are willing to give you 15,000, but the actual budget is about 20, even 25,000. So you should always negotiate. And I implore everyone here, try by all means to learn those negotiating skills. I negotiate everything, absolutely everything. I'll tell you the other day, one of my clients phoned me and said, hey, we want to do seminars for employees, and this is the budget. I told them that this is nowhere close to what I charge. But as I listened, also develop listening skills, what the other person is saying. When they were done, they told me that, no, they're going to review their budget and they're looking to do the seminars every single month for their employees. So for me, as someone who is self-employed, and all the ladies here will tell you, if someone says, we want you to be here every month, that's consistent income. So don't always, again, be fixated on one thing, the thing that you came in to negotiate. Look at all options. They said, okay, we want you to come here every month and we're looking to increase our budget for the year after the financial year end. Boom, lights went off and I knew that's an opportunity. So always listen, but again, negotiate everything, absolutely everything, even if it's just for practice.
I love that answer because I am very much a believer in negotiation, and I think females really need to also not be afraid to negotiate, and just to lean into what they want, what they want in careers and in life. So we are going to wrap up. Thank you so much to our speakers. This has been so amazing. Thank you to Shine Club Wine for allowing us and providing us with a space to really talk about careers and going after our dreams and essentially sharing the shine. So if you liked what you saw today, please go and sign up to the shineclubwine.co.za website for more content. There's some really great content on the website, and this webinar will be emailed to you in 24 hours time so that you can rewatch the webinar and refer back to any points that you have. I wish we had more time for all the questions because there are so many great ones, but also don't be afraid to reach out to the speakers on social media and maybe with any questions that you might have that weren't answered. Thank you so much, ladies. It's been really great having you all. And I know I've even learned some amazing information from you. So thank you. Does anyone have anything to say before we end the webinar? Okay, great. So everyone have a lovely weekend, and thank you for tuning in.